Good morning, everyone. My name is Johnny Williams, and my topic or country of presentation would be South Africa. Um, I had the pleasure of visiting South Africa when I was in the military about 5, 6 years ago. Um, and I must admit, to my surprise, I expected to go there and see, and I know it seems kind of crazy, but I expected to see animals roaming around and things of that nature. But when I got there, I was surprised to see a bustling city. Um, a modern city. People were nice. I've heard of South Africa and some of the issues that it had, or and still has. So it was quite surprising to see people friendly, nice, um, just a vibrant city. And I look forward to going back there one day if I ever get the opportunity to go back. But I just want to present my presentation on South Africa, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Okay, South Africa. When you think of South Africa, what comes to mind? I can honestly say for me, in recent years has been Nelson Mandela, apartheid, even though he's been gone for a little bit. It was the first thing that came to my mind. But as it turns out, South Africa is much more than that. It's just, again, it's a hustling, bustling city. It's vibrant. Um, it has an economy, but it has some issues. South Africa was the first country to turn coal into oil. Um, they kind of had no choice to do that because they had their own livelihood. And then, like I said, the second thing that comes to mind for me would be apartheid, which is a form of legal segregation in South Africa that was instituted to, based on race. Uh, and I think of that, and I'm thinking, wow, it's a country you would think full of, you know, Africans. So why would they allow someone to rule them like that? But I guess um, there was a majority rule over there. And when you think of folks from South Africa, like I said, the first one that comes to mind for me, maybe for everybody else, but for me, is Nelson Mandela. Um, but there are many other famous people from South Africa, and I think of professional golfers like Ernie Els, Rory Sabatini, I apologize. Um, but for me, again, it's Nelson Mandela, and I would try to describe his life and his sacrifice in detail further in my presentation. South Africa is the 25th largest nation in the world. Um, Even though it's part of the continent of Africa, but it's kind of like the very, very bottom of the tip. And you think about that, it's the 25th largest nation just comprised of that little section down there. So Africa is a big continent. It shares borders with 6 countries: Namibia, Lesotho, Mozambique, Swaziland, Zimbabwe, and Botswana. Uh, the landmass of South Africa covers 1,214,407 square kilometers of land and 4,620 square meters of water. And I really didn't know this until I did this research, because you think of third world countries as being ones that just overrun, just not producing anything. But our South Africa is considered a third world country. And again, that surprises me because of the vibrancy of the nation and the everything's got going on with its economy. And like many other places around the world, South Africa's population is diverse. You have different people speaking different languages, um, and you would think that with such diversity, everyone would get along, but that's not always the case, as I present later on in my presentation. Uh, so when you think of South Africa, you know the food. And again, for me, you think of deserts and stuff, so you assume they eat a bunch of meat. And they go out there and they track their game and they kill it and cook it. But it's not the case. When I visited, I'm on a safari, and me being a southern guy, I'm thinking safari. Wow, I'm gonna see lion, tigers, and all that good stuff. And I did see some, but not to the scale I thought. So we went there and we went on a safari in a closed vehicle, uh, and then you did see some animals, and then when you went to the house where the people that prevented safari, you ate steaks, local cuisine. So I have tried the food, but again, I've been in the Navy for so many years. When I went overseas, I never ever tried the local cuisine. I always stuck to, and sadly to say, the McDonald's, the KFCs. Not sure it was chicken, but I guess in my mind I thought it was. But that's what I think myself when I thought about South Africa. Their food is diverse. They speak different languages, and there are the people called the Sand People or the Bushmen. You know, there's probably if you see one of the National Geographic shows, there's the ones out there that's dressed in their loincloth and carrying the spears and things of that nature. Um, but believe it or not, they enjoyed a variety of edible roots, leaves, plants, and things of that nature. Um, they also gather eggs, particularly ostrich eggs. That was something they enjoyed. And to complete their menu, they again, this is what I assume they hunted antelope, birds, and small animals. Um, and the Sand People or the Bushmen are considered the kind of like I guess they'd be considered like the Native Americans of America. They're the first settlers, the first people there, so to speak. Um, and when it comes to food, just like the language, there's several different cultures that influenced South Africa. Um, one that comes to mind is the Dutch had influence on South African cuisine. Um, and it kind of started back in 1652. The Dutch kind of founded Cape Town, and it was actually founded by the Dutch East India Company. And the reason why they founded it was because they wanted to provide food, fruits, and vegetables for weary sailors on the way back to Asia. The location was important because, as anything, without water, there's really no life. So the reason why the location was in Cape Town was kind of important to the Dutch was because the availability of water. Um, and the Dutch also introduced a large variety of fruits and vegetables foreign to South Africa. Um, Again, the Bushmen or the Sand People, the way they hunted and cooked their food, probably open flame, things of that nature. But the Dutch actually cooked their stews, potatoes, their vegetables in a pot. And even today, the influence of the Dutch people can be seen throughout South Africa. And and again, South Africans eat a variety of foods influenced by the French, Malaysians, as I mentioned earlier, the Dutch and their stew. Some of the things that the South Africans eat, I wouldn't say is a favorite food there, because that's I'm sure like any place else. Um, you eat. There's many different folks eat different foods. Because when you think of food here, you think of America. You think what's for us. You think of McDonald's and all this fast food, which we are much more varied in that. So I assume South Africa is the same way. But some of the things that they do eat is, if I pronounce it correctly, is Big Tong and Roers Cape Malay curry, which would be influenced by the Malaysians, and Malva pudding, just to name a few. And again, if they had to pick their most popular, I guess, meal, it would be chakalaka and pap. They're the mainstays on every South African dinner table. Chakalaka is a vegetable. Nice name too. Chakalaka is a vegetable dish made by onions, tomatoes, peppers, carrots, beans, and spices, and is often served cold. So that's why I know, personally speaking, I couldn't eat it because cold food and me, we don't get along. But for the South Africans, it's one of their favorite foods. And then the pap, it's like a porridge. And I can relate to this here, being from the South. It says almost like grits. Well, again, being from the South, I love grits, so I could eat that cold, hot. It doesn't matter. So I can understand that one. And as South Africa got more sophisticated, so did their diet. Obviously, meat is a big staple over there. When I visited, they had a lot of steak houses. We ate steak during the safari. Again, different kinds of meats, vegetables. So it's like anything else. The more sophisticated you are, your diet, your palate's going to change. And basically, the more money you make, the different foods you want to eat. And in South Africa, that's no different. Again, as diverse as South Africa is, it's no surprise that their languages are the same way. Officially, 11 languages are recognized in South Africa, from English to Xitsonga. Um, and oddly enough, not oddly enough, but interesting enough, most South Africans speak two different languages. Now, I think you would have to because I guess as Americans, we kind of get in our way, think, you know what, everybody speak English, and that's true if you're going to America. But when we go over to different countries, we don't necessarily try to learn their language like we that they necessarily have to learn ours. So most of them speak two different languages, which was interesting to me. And the most popular language spoken in South Africa is isiZulu. isiZulu. And what makes it the most popular language is because there are about 10 million plus people speaking that, or 23% of the population, which makes it the first language in South Africa that most people speak. And so I find it interesting. And globalization. Okay, when it comes to religion, um, I already did a report on this. I think globalization has influenced religion. As far as the Crusades, and I think of Billy Graham going overseas, speaking to different folks, the masses of people that be in his crowd. But globalization has its effect on religion, especially in South Africa. Um, I wouldn't particularly think that Christianity would be the most prominent belief system over there, but it is. Um, that makes up the most of it, and then non-Christians, and which include Islam, Hindu, and Judaism and Buddhism, um, is also prevalent over there. And so, even though the country prides itself on being a multi-denominational country, 50% of the population do not identify themselves with any religion, and that percent makes up the second largest group in the country behind Christians. Um, I didn't know this. The Dutch and the British introduced Christianity during the apartheid era. Belief is more prevalent among whites, and it says colored South Africans, making up a total of 86%. So, religion in that country is very important, as it is in most places. But yeah, especially in South Africa. And when it comes to South Africa, this is what I was trying to say earlier. There's no story will be complete without mentioning apartheid and the effect that it has on the country. Apartheid, simply speaking, is a policy system of segregation on discrimination on the grounds of race. In other words, just because you're a particular race, we're going to make rules and laws that exclude you. Um, and those laws have, still have ramifications to the day. Okay, that system of government was practiced from 1948 to 1994, and it still affects South Africa today. Um, some comparisons say apartheid is as much as Africa's history as slavery is of ours in America. So you can imagine if we've been, we're dealing with problems, they are too as well. But the Nelson Mandela was a South African activist, and he's a former president of South Africa who helped bring an end to apartheid and has been a global advocate for human rights up to his death. He was a member of the ANC, or the African National Congress, that began back in the 1940s. He was a leader of both peaceful and armed resistance. I knew he was everybody, quote him or they try to emulate him. But I didn't necessarily I knew he was jailed for so many years, about 27 years, but I didn't know, I just thought basically he was kind of like a Gandhi type, just peaceful protest. But I see that he was sometimes involved in armed resistance against the white minority of his country. So, and that armed resistance got him jailed for so many years on this Robben Island. So, again, his actions landed him in prison, again in Robben Island, for nearly 3 decades. And that made him a face of the anti-apartheid movement both in his country and abroad. In 1993, he, along with F.W. de Klerk, were jointly awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for their efforts to dismantle the country apartheid system. Even today, his legacy and his courage and sacrifice is a source of inspiration for civil rights activists around the world. I can honestly say some of the things that struck me about South Africa. It's a beautiful place to visit. Just an awesome place to visit. Again, the people are nice, warm, friendly, um, and I would go back there in a heartbeat. But if you go outside the city, about an hour or so ride, you will see. I don't know if shanty town is the correct word, but you will see poverty and despair. that make you say, "Wow." And I know we have it here in the United States as well. Uh, but it just it kind of blew me away because you see all this big, clean, just vibrant city. You get on a train ride or a bus ride, and boom, you're outside the city and you see just squalor, and you wonder, wow, what is going on? Uh, and in recent years, uh, there's been a lot of, I wouldn't say payback, but a lot of attacks against the whites in South Africa. Some equate that to the failure of democracy in the country, which I'm sure a lot of them will harken back to. Well, let's go back to apartheid, but that didn't work either. And again, it's been in the country about 25 years, but change and reform in some areas is slow to come. Um, Something that's on the rise there is called vigilantism, and they say that's equated because the government is failing, um, and that the government in some ways is corrupt. So you can see why a lot of people take action to their own hands. You know, it's kind of weird now. You know, you read about where there's one restaurant chain over there banned a white customer from coming in, so now the whites are boycotting the restaurant. So it yeah, I ain't gonna say it's just a different scene over there, and a lot of us do the fact that they think that democracy is not working, that it's actually failing. Uh, South Africa again is a country of great beauty and great despair in some places, um, but it's a melting pot, just like America. Food, religion, culture. It's what makes us a human race. You're gonna have strife, but as a country and as a people, you get through it. I would say South Africa has its fair share of problems, but democracy is young in that country, and democracy sometimes it is ugly. Um, we as Americans have been doing this democracy thing for a lot longer than South Africans, and we still have issues. So I say, just give them time to find their way, and hopefully they will express the ideas of democracy and freedom of a free country. I just want to say thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Looking forward to your feedback. Thank you.